January has become popularly known as Divorce Month, the time when divorce filings traditionally rise. And while statistics support the increase, the numbers really just tell part of the story, as the breakdown of common law relationships, that's not counted towards divorce data here. And these common law separations, of course, can be just as complex and financially draining as a traditional divorce when it comes to child support, spousal support, and more. So let's help navigate the path of divorce or separation for people this morning and get some answers to commonly asked questions. Christopher Yu, a partner at Shulman Partners LLP, joins us. Christopher, thanks for being here this morning.
It's an absolute pleasure. What
is it about January that makes it Divorce Month, before we get into the big questions?
You know what it is? I think people are trying to hold out through the holidays. Nobody really wants to have a bad time at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Whether it's for the kids, they try to make it through the holidays, and then come January, the weather's terrible. Mm-hmm. Everybody is, they get that little extra push. That's anecdotally what I think causes that.
Yeah. Okay, so people, if they're going through this right now and watching and thinking, okay, I'm kind of pondering this here, whether you're married or in a common law relationship, is anything specifically different about how this would proceed?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're married, the legislation in Ontario gives you a specific right automatically to property division. You don't get that when you're common law. That's the biggest difference. You still have spousal support and child support rights and parenting issues that need to be dealt with. But the biggest one here is the statutory framework for married couples to divide property, whereas you don't get it in the common law.
And one of the big things in property is likely your property, your residence, et cetera. And there's always this debate about, should one or the other partner sort of move out of the house? If children are involved, that changes the coin. What's the best advice there in terms of, sometimes it's just like, no one wants to be with that other person.
Yeah, I would always say the first thing you got to do is you got to talk to a family lawyer, because it's so fact specific. You hit on a couple of them, right? Like, it's a different consideration if there's kids involved and if there's no kids involved.
Right.
Because if you move out, your kids are going to stay in the house more than likely. So you're moving out and you're minimizing your own time with the kids.
Yeah.
It might be different if you have adult kids or no kids at all. You might have a different place you can move to that's available. So just talk to a family lawyer. They'll help you work out the considerations and what the timing should be.
So there's two factors when it comes to support, I suppose, as well there. And again, it's children versus no children. There is children, child support, or spousal support, depending on which way. How does that get calculated? Is it just based on the person who says this is over, or is it based on other factors?
Child support's the easier one. If the children are living primarily with one parent, that parent is entitled presumptively to child support, and that's just based on what the payer's income is.
Okay.
If spousal support's much more complicated, it takes into account a lot of different factors, such as what was the relationship like, how long was the relationship for, were there kids, what were the sacrifices like during the marriage, and of course, what are the incomes of the two spouses as well. But that one's a little more complicated to calculate. Child support's relatively simple.
Okay, a lot of money really on the line, I think, and when it comes to family separation and divorce. How much should people factor in when they're thinking about, like, how much is this going to cost me? Just the sort of proceedings, legal advice, that sort of thing. I mean, there's the other entire cost as well, of course.
Yeah, that's a super common question.
Excuse me.
Oh, of course. What I would say is that it's, again, you'll hear me say this a lot as a family lawyer, but it's so fact specific, right? Like, if you guys are doing things amicably, everybody's on the same page, everybody's got reasonable and competent lawyers, it can be a relatively simple and easy process.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got another side that is not very amicable, or their lawyer's not very reasonable, and you guys are arguing over every single detail, the cost could obviously go up, and it's just based on what kind of time is spent on the file.
Yeah. Look, clearly you're a lawyer, you've got a lot of skin in the game here, but what mistakes have you seen from people who think, what, I can represent myself in these kind of proceedings? How does that ever work out?
Well, it usually doesn't work out well. The number one reason is you don't know the law. And while AI might be here to help you out, you might be able to Google some things. There's so many nuances and details in family law that you need a family lawyer involved. So that's the first problem. You don't know the law. The second thing is when you're going about, and let's say you're in litigation, you don't know the court rules. It's the deck is stacked against you in that sense.
Okay, Christopher, it's Divorce Month. You must be busy, so we're gonna have to let you go. Appreciate the time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the tips for people out there. Thank you very much.